Sports on a Wednesday, which means we have Throw-In Shade at the end of the show. I'm actually pretty excited about the discussion that's going to come out of my Throw-In Shade segment today. But we're live talking some Vols and talking really SEC head football coaches on today's Wednesday show. So we're going to work through an exercise. As Zach and I pre-show have tiered the SEC head football coaches into four tiers. We have not included Jeremy Pruitt in these tiers because that's today's exercise, is finding out which tier Jeremy Pruitt belongs to. So we'll do that. We'll have some fun with it, figure out where Jeremy Pruitt is landing going into year 3 with Tennessee, with a lot more expectations on the Vols this year than definitely going into last year. So we'll do that. Then we'll discuss SEC dark horses. The very dark horse on the graphic there, Zach. That's very good. The dark horse in the SEC. Who is your surprise SEC team this upcoming football season? And then shade. My shade, Zach, involves sandwiches. So I'm just going to lay that out there as my shade tease. It involves sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of sandwiches. I had a Jersey Mike's sub sandwich yesterday. And, you know, sometimes you get a good Jersey Mike's sub and you get a really bad one because of the people that make it. Yesterday was a fantastic one. So I don't know what your topic is at the end. Mine has a little bit of a local flair to it of my shade. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting into this discussion, talking SEC today on this hump day. We're going to have a great show. I truly believe that. Before we get started, though, bottom right corner of your screen, if you're watching on Periscope/Twitter, those 3 little dots, tap that bad boy and retweet the broadcast. We need to pop up in your Twitter followers timeline. That is where we need to be. Also, share the show on Facebook. What's going on, Facebookers? More people will pile in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. And as you do, please share the show. We're going to talk about not only Jeremy Pruitt today, but if you're a fan of any SEC team. Look, I didn't go to Tennessee. Could give a rip about Tennessee. But
we're going to be talking about your boy Lane Kiffin.
We're going to be talking about the Lane train, baby. Whoop, whoop. Yep, we're going to be humping on board. And also Mike Leach. So we got a lot to talk about on Facebook. Please share the show, bottom left corner of your screen. Share now to public. Sharing is caring. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends newsfeed. So we will get rocking and rolling shortly here on a Wednesday.
Yep, let's get it going officially. Welcoming the A to Z Sports, powered by TennesseeTickets.com. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports. You like our Facebook page at A to Z Sports Nashville, because we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it all happen for us and they help you guys out. TennesseeTickets.com. Check them out for any tickets you need, because they will refund your money if fans are not allowed to go to the games at TennesseeTickets.com. Renters Warehouse, Nashville's professional landlords. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the pulse of fitness, where one 15-minute workout of full-body electronic muscle stimulation simulates 5+ hours in the weight room. Mandu.com. Your first workout is free. The Tucker Agency, saving you, an average of 20% on your personal insurance with TuckerTN.com, TuckerTN.com. And looking for some new floors? Calvin and Subtle hardwood floors and finishing. CalvinandSubtle.com is where to go. They do a great job servicing the Middle Tennessee area. CalvinandSubtle.com. Charlie with the smartest comment of the morning so far. He says, Jeremy Pruitt is a top 14 head coach in the SEC. Changed my mind. Yes, Charlie, you are correct. And that's a very funny comment. Frank hopping in here saying, go Gators. We will talk about the Gators head coach. We're going to talk about really every head coach in the SEC today, as we're trying to find out where Jeremy Pruitt lands in the 4 coaching tiers that we came up with. Zach, walk the people through our process pre-show on the coaching tiers that we came up with.
Well, let's keep it simple. We're trying to place this man right here. I'll probably you get a little excited in your eyes, Austin, your boy right there walking right towards you in orange. But we get to the SEC coaching tiers. It's very simple of how we wanted to tier it, right? Not opinion-based, but fact-based. Nick Saban, Ed Orgeron, Jimbo Fisher. Those bros got rings, shiny diamond rings, national championships. Jimbo Fisher at Florida State, Ed Orgeron last year with LSU, and Nick Saban, well, he's got a lot of them. Tier 2, really good head coaches. Kirby Smart, Dan Mullen, and Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn has been to a national championship. Kirby Smart has been to a national championship. Dan Mullen, as a head coach, had the number 1 team in the country at one point when you talk about Mississippi State, has done a very good job at Florida. Then you've got Tier 3, the good coaches. Not really good, but good coaches. Mark Stoops have changed the program around at Kentucky. Will Muschamp has had some success, quarterback, carousel quite a bit over the last couple of years. Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin will find out about more in the SEC. We know more about them as coordinators. And then with Mike Leach, he's done a lot on the West Coast and Texas Tech. And then you have Tier 4, Derek Mason, Eliza Drinkowitz, and Sam Pittman. Those guys, Derek Mason has done the best job that he has at Vanderbilt with what he's been dealing with. And you've got 2 new head coaches. And, Derek Mason, good coach, good man. Like, we like Derek Mason. We're here in Nashville. Vanderbilt, way to go. But results. This is a results-based business. And unfortunately, Vanderbilt has not gotten the results to put him in a different tier. Facts are facts. But those are the tiers that we are going to position Austin's man right here, Jeremy Pruitt, against. I can't wait.
And I was looking back because I made that tier graphic, and me and Zach both kind of collaborated to come up with those tiers. I feel like Will Muschamp might have been 1 tier too high there. I think you can make an argument that Will Muschamp, because he was fired at Florida, at South Carolina, he has never really broken through any barrier of success. So maybe Will Muschamp could slide down to tier 3, and Zach Reagan, I see
he's coming off of a bad year, but look, 9-4, 7-6, his second and third year at South Carolina. He's coming off of a bad year. I think he's earned a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because that 9-4 year in 2017, second, went to an Outback Bowl. I think that at least gives you in tier 3. That doesn't get you in tier 4.
All right, so Zach Reagan says, I'm not sure Jimbo Fisher should be in tier 1. He's underwhelmed a bit so far in the SEC. I think I originally could argue, yes.
He won an Natty.
Yes, at Florida State several years ago.
He's a coach. He won a Natty.
But what – and for simplicity's sake, that's why Jimbo Fisher is in tier 1, because he does have a national championship and the other 2 do. Now, the other 2 have one way more recent than Jimbo does. So
and let's face it, Jimbo Fisher's not Gene Chizik. Okay, guys, come on.
That's
Jimbo
exactly
Fisher had built a program, had an unbelievable career as offensive coordinator at LSU under Nick Saban, and then went to Florida State and built a program. And then what happened? The wheels have fallen off since Jimbo Fisher left.
Yes. So Weston says switch Jimbo Fisher with Kirby Smart. So I think overall,
Weston, you don't make any sense. Do you understand what I said and how the tiers are? You talk about a national championship. Kirby Smart does not have one of those as a head coach. And look at the college football, look at the world of college football. Really quality head coaches usually win national championships.
True. So there's 2 ways to think about it, right? Because you could talk about, okay, this tiering is based off what these coaches have done in the past, right? Because that's why Saban, Orgeron, and Jimbo Fisher are in the same house right there in tier number 1, because of what they've done in the past. But maybe Weston's talking about what he sees in Kirby Smart from the future. I could absolutely hear arguments about Kirby Smart, Dan Mullen being better than Jimbo Fisher, and hell, maybe even being overall a better head coach than Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron has a national title, but we do need to see what LSU and Ed Orgeron can do without Joe Burrow, who had the best college quarterbacking season ever. So there's some wiggle room in it.
College football team in the history of college football, too, right?
So, and Nick Saban has been doing this for a decade, right? Edo and Jimbo Fisher have not. So I understand how there is some disagreement with what's going on with our tiers. But let's get to the man that we plan to talk about. That is Jeremy Pruitt. I think we can all agree, Zach, that Jeremy Pruitt is not in tier 1. He does not have a national championship on his finger as a head coach. He has several as an assistant at both really at both Alabama and at Florida State, but he's not in tier 1. And I think he is not in tier 4. I think Jeremy Pruitt is a better head coach than Derek Mason. Eli Drinkwitz, who's had success at App State, but now at Missouri. And I think Jeremy Pruitt is better than Sam Pittman, who has not been a head coach before. So now, where does Jeremy Pruitt fall? So here's what we're going to do with this exercise. We're going to do Jeremy Pruitt versus blank. Jeremy Pruitt versus coach. We'll say yes or no, or we'll pick the coach that's better, and then we'll work our way down the list to find out where Jeremy Pruitt lands in these SEC head coaching tiers. So I've got the first one. We'll start in tier 2, but first, Zach, tell people about the Tucker Agency.
Yes, the Tucker Agency is here to save you money in a time of need, right? Maybe you've lost some income. Maybe you've lost your job. Restructure your insurance to help you out and save a couple extra dollars. And a couple extra dollars could mean a couple $100, right? That puts food on the table. That helps pay the bills. You have car insurance if you're driving a car. You have homeowners insurance if you own a home. You should have renter's insurance if you rent. All of these things are under a policy. That policy can be changed at any point in time, and you need to email Will Tucker at will@tuckertn.com. Will Tucker is the owner of the Tucker Agency. His team can help you. All you have to do is provide your policy. He will look at it. He'll rearrange it. And here's the best part. 20%. You can save 20% on your insurance. That's what the average customer saves on their insurance policy when they come and ask Will at tuckertn.com. Type in an email. Heard you on A to Z Sports. How do I save money on my insurance? Simple as that. Will and his team will hook you up. He will tell you how to save that money. tuckertn.com.
A to Z Sports. Don't forget, shop.atozsportsnashville.com. That is where you go for any of our gear, and AZ30 for 30% off all orders. We had several orders coming in over the last week since we started this. So AZ30 for 30% off anything at shop.atozsportsnashville.com. So and Zach Reagan brings up, he says, give Pruitt and Kirby Smart the same roster, and what is the result? So, Zach Reagan, that's where we will begin. Jeremy Pruitt versus Kirby Smart. Who you taking there?
So I take Kirby Smart. Look, I think that Jeremy Pruitt in this entire conversation, which he should because that he did it, but he's going to benefit off of last year's season, which is kind of funny because after the first 2 games, we were sitting there calling Jeremy Pruitt a coordinator disguised as a head coach. Like,
yeah.
What is he doing?
That was like me. I was all about anti-Jeremy Pruitt. Yeah.
And he rallied the troops. Now, he lost to the teams that he probably should have lost to and beat the teams he should have beaten. But at the end of the day, he got to a bowl game. Bad performance at some point by Tennessee, but came back, rallied the troops in that game, and won 8 games. Is he better than Kirby Smart? Hell no, he's not. Kirby Smart did take over for a very good program. I think Mark Richt, who is one of my favorite people, favorite coaches, I don't know why, I have no tie with Georgia. I just always respected what Mark Richt did. But Kirby Smart took that program over. Jacob Eason wasn't the guy, found Jake Fromm, found his guys, and went to a national championship and really was an overtime away from winning and maybe some questionable decisions away from winning a national championship. He's done an outstanding job at Georgia, who for years we said couldn't get over the hump. I picked Kirby Smart over Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah, I do too. But I think Zach Reagan's idea or proposal of what can Pruitt and Smart do with the same roster.
I mean, that's such a cop-out. And I love Zach Reagan, right?
But again,
orange-colored glasses.
No, but Zach,
right
you mentioned it. You mentioned it how Kirby Smart took over for a really solid program. Georgia was not in disarray when Kirby Smart took over for your guy, Mark Richt. They were still top tier in the SEC East. And I think Kirby Smart was the needed change from Mark Richt. It had run stale with Mark Richt, obviously. And Kirby Smart has done a good job. He hasn't crashed it. And there's also that possibility when you take over a program with high expectations and a high level of talent, It's a lot of pressure on you to not crash the program, and Kirby Smart has not done that. So, yeah, obviously right now, pretty easy decision to take Kirby Smart over Jeremy Pruitt. So we'll move on. I don't think many Vol fans, diehard orange glasses or not, would say Kirby Smart is worse than Jeremy Pruitt. So now let's go to the next guy. Jeremy Pruitt versus Dan Mullen at Florida. Who do you take here?
So I take Dan Mullen over Jeremy Pruitt. I think Dan Mullen, what he did at Mississippi State, even though I hate Mississippi State, very impressive. And he took over similar situations as far as record when Jeremy Pruitt, both hired at the same time by their respected universities. But Dan Mullen hit the ground running, right? That program didn't skip a beat. He got Florida back real quick. Tennessee took a little bit longer. I think the coach had a big deal to do with that. I still take Dan Mullen over Jeremy Pruitt. And I think, look, Tennessee tried to take Dan Mullen over Jeremy Pruitt. That tells you everything you need to know.
Split Build says, I think this year will determine if Dan Mullen is a true elite coach. Don't disagree with that.
I think the same way for Pruitt. If he regresses and wins 7 instead of 8 games or 6 games or loses to Kentucky or something or loses to Missouri late in the season, who knows? They're going to think the same damn thing about Pruitt.
Yeah, and Rob says he's a goofball, Dan Mullen, but a good coach. Kelkin says Florida didn't have a decade in the dumps. That's true, but Jim McElwain certainly tried, as they were having credit card fraud all over that roster and a bunch of other ridiculous stuff. And look, Dom says I'd take Pruitt over Dan Mullen. I disagree. I think Dan Mullen will have Florida in the college football playoff within the next 3 seasons. I'm talking 2020, 21, and 22. I'm predicting Florida will have a college football playoff appearance in the next 3 years. I think that's how good Dan Mullen is with quarterbacks. And what did Florida not have? What haven't they had since Tim Tebow? A freaking quarterback who's competent. They went through a bunch of really crappy quarterbacks like Jeff Driscoll and all the other ones, and nobody could do anything. Felipe Franks is gone, and Kyle Trask was able to be more consistent and help make more plays for Florida last year and was less up and down than Felipe Franks. So I think Florida has a bright future because I like Dan Mullen quite a bit. I wanted Dan Mullen to be the Vols head coach. He is a cornball. He's goofy. He makes me cringe, but he's a damn good football coach. And I think you could argue that he could be in tier 1 of our SEC coaching tier. So I'd take Mullen over Pruitt.
Well, and I think we both agree with that. And Eric has a good comment. I mean, John Curry tried to take Mullen over Pruitt. He says that says a lot, but I think that was the right decision. Look, John Curry didn't make a lot of good decisions, be it that. I understand that. I'm not a John Curry fan. But everybody at that point was trying to take Dan Mullen. You love the guy until you don't get the guy. I mean, that's how the coaching works, right? And then once you get a guy, you love that guy. You didn't love Jeremy Pruitt before he put on that power tee. Give me a break. You hated his guts. He was Alabama's scum. He was the Seminole Wind. Like, you didn't like that guy.
I mean, I was indifferent towards Jeremy Pruitt. I knew nothing about Jeremy Pruitt before he took the head coaching job at Tennessee because he worked at Alabama, and you know nothing about
Jeremy Pruitt, though.
Yeah, but I wasn't anti-Jeremy Pruitt like you're making out to be. I knew nothing about him. I was indifferent towards anybody on that staff that I didn't know about. So here, let's move on to the next guy because I think this is an interesting conversation. Because in year 1, Jeremy Pruitt upset Gus Malzahn on the road. Jeremy Pruitt versus Gus Malzahn, who you taking with this one?
Gus Malzahn's a little bit more difficult, as you said. This is how I would describe this question. I think it's a good one. It's scheme, right? I feel like when I think of Gus Malzahn, I think of scheme. He can scheme him up. And if he has a really good quarterback or really good players around his quarterback, we saw that with Cam Newton, obviously, when he was the offensive coordinator there. Who was the quarterback when he went to the national? Nick
Marshall.
Nick Marshall. God,
he was a defensive back. Yeah.
Yeah. And he went to the national championship with Nick Marshall. Very impressive. So scheme over what I think Jeremy Pruitt has started to prove is the developmental, the coaching, right? Hard coach. Vrabel is one of those too. Really, really a coach. And I do think that coach in the long run usually wins because the development of players. Now, here's where coaches can get. I think Gus Malzahn is smarter than Jeremy Pruitt, but I also believe that Jeremy Pruitt's system can also work.
You say you think Gus Malzahn's smarter than Pruitt, but in year one, Pruitt outsmarted Gus Malzahn.
There's one game. Yeah, a squirrel finds a nut.
Well, that's what it's head to head, Zach. Like you literally just said.
Jeremy Pruitt lost to Georgia State, Austin.
But you're talking about
by that thinking, Jeremy Pruitt is less than the Georgia State head coach. Get your head out of your ass.
No, you literally said you think Gus Malzahn is smarter than Jeremy Pruitt when head to head, the only opportunity we have, Jeremy Pruitt outsmarted Gus Malzahn and out-schemed his team. That's what happened.
Jeremy Pruitt. That's one time. Georgia State's head coach is better than and is smarter than Jeremy Pruitt.
Jeremy Pruitt made mistakes.
Is that correct or incorrect? Is Georgia State's head coach smarter or better than Jeremy Pruitt?
No, he's not.
So then throw out what you just said. You don't make any. That doesn't make any sense.
But specifically, like Tennessee was not ready to play against Georgia State. That was a lack of preparation against.
Got outsmarted. Right. So is that what you're saying?
They were out prepared. They were over prepared. That was a complete awful coaching.
Gus Malzahn has proven over a longer period of time that he is a smarter head coach because he's had more success than Jeremy Pruitt. Not one game. Don't put words in my mouth, which you just tried to, and I squashed that pretty quick.
I didn't put words in your mouth. You put words in my mouth.
You said that just because, since I said Gus Malzahn is smarter than Jeremy Pruitt, and just because Gus Malzahn lost to Jeremy Pruitt, that doesn't make any sense.
But it's
not about one game.
It's about how that game was won by Tennessee. Auburn was a 25
Ray Pierce shut you up. Vrabel outsmarted Belichick in the playoffs last year and a couple of years ago. It doesn't mean that Vrabel or that Belichick is not as smart as Vrabel. And one game doesn't matter.
But I don't think you can come up here and say that Gus Malzahn is just automatically smarter than Pruitt. I think they're both really good football coaches.
I think he's shown over a period of time
because he's had more experience. Jeremy Pruitt's younger than Gus Malzahn. Jeremy Pruitt has won more national championships as a coordinator than Gus Malzahn has won national championships as a coordinator. So I don't think that's a way to side with Gus Malzahn as smarts. I think they're both smart. They're on opposite sides of the ball. Gus Malzahn is a very smart offensive mind. Jeremy Pruitt is a very smart defensive mind.
There's a reason why I said what I said. Gus Malzahn, when he wins games, he does outsmart the teams at the end of the game because of his offensive scheme and he's an offensive guru. That's what he is, right? He wouldn't have snatched the job away from his head coach if he wasn't as smart as he is. I don't understand why you don't understand that.
Okay. So other examples, I wanted to read a comment because Jeremy Pruitt beat Gus Malzahn offenses when he was the DC of Alabama. Also, Jeremy Pruitt's Florida State defense when he was the D coordinator with Jimbo Fisher. Who did they beat in the national championship? They beat Gus Malzahn's offense with Auburn. So, I mean, there's a couple examples of Jeremy Pruitt knows how to defend Gus Malzahn's
What about
offense.
Charlie? Read Charlie's comment.
Gus beat Alabama, which we don't. Tennessee, correct. Tennessee doesn't. Jeremy Pruitt has had two opportunities, and he got a lot closer last year than either the year before. So
Close but no cigar.
Okay. That
tells you a lot.
So
Gus Malzahn has beaten Alabama multiple times. It's not just one time. That tells you, like, so are you taking Pruitt over Gus Malzahn? Because everything you've said, if you go the other way, it's just like noise.
For the long haul, not about what they've accomplished. Obviously, Gus Malzahn has accomplished more than Jeremy Pruitt as a head coach. For the long haul, I think Jeremy Pruitt has a higher ceiling than Gus Malzahn. I think Gus Malzahn is close to hitting his ceiling, or he might have already
has proven that his ceiling is a national championship appearance.
And he hasn't been back in a while. And maybe
Jeremy Pruitt hasn't sniffed a conference championship game.
So I'm not talking about what what Gus Malzahn has done in the past. I'm talking about what he and Auburn are going to do in the future. And I trust Tennessee to build better under Pruitt than what Gus Malzahn is doing at Auburn. Because it seems like every other year, Gus Malzahn is on the hot seat, but he pulls some crazy win out of his ass and saves his job. Now, he's continuously done that, but I think I like Jeremy Pruitt's ceiling more than Gus Malzahn's current ceiling.
I'll take Gus Malzahn over Jeremy Pruitt.
All right, fair. Let's get to tier 3. So here's what we've been doing. We've got our SEC coaching tiers without Jeremy Pruitt. That's the SEC coaching tiers. We've gone through tier 1. Now we've gone through tier 2. Zach has taken all the other coaches ahead of Pruitt. I'm taking Pruitt over Gus Malzahn for the future. We're going to get to tier 3 of our SEC coaching tiers. But before we get to tier 3, I'm going to tell you guys about Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness, where one 15-minute workout of full body electronic muscle stimulation simulates 5+ hours in the weight room. I did a workout yesterday. On Sunday. I have another workout today. I'm doubling up, Mandu. I'm getting swole. I feel great. I've lost 20 pounds of fat over the last year because of what Mandu has been able to show me. Your first workout is absolutely free, and it's the perfect opportunity for you to try that first free workout. Mandu.com is where to go.
Hope you don't have plans at 1 o'clock because it's playoff time. It's AFC Championship time. Blitz 2000, the AFC Championship, Titans at Broncos, 1 o'clock Central Time, streaming live here on the platform that you are watching besides IG, but Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. You can watch the AFC Championship game live here on A to Z Sports. Really looking forward to that. Trying to get to the Super Bowl. Tomorrow's my birthday. I would not want nothing more than to be in a Super Bowl on my birthday. I would be devastated if that does not happen. But I also, you play to win the game, and sometimes you don't win the game. So I'm trying to put all the chips on the table, and there may be some snow flurries in Denver today. Who knows? Maybe. But
Who is
1
it?
o'clock, get your popcorn ready.
Brian Griese led Denver Broncos. Is that correct?
Nope, that is incorrect.
Is John Elway still on the team? Because he retired.
No, you know what we'll do? Wait till the live stream to find out who's quarterbacking the Denver Broncos in today's game. And we'll do a little poll before we start things because I don't know if a lot of people are going to get it. Who knows? You may be right. You may be wrong. 1 o'clock, we'll find out.
All right, A to Z Sports. Let's get to this. Let's get to our tier 3. We've gone through the other tiers. And again, tier 1, Ethan, is not Nick Saban. It's because those other guys have also won national titles. So tier 1 is the national championship head coaches, which is Nick Saban, Ed Orgeron, and Jimbo Fisher. You can break down and say how miles ahead Nick Saban is from Ed Orgeron and Jimbo Fisher, but they have all won national titles. Tier 2, Kirby Smart, Dan Mullen, Gus Malzahn. So now we get to tier 3. You got Mark Stoops at Kentucky, Will Muschamp at South Carolina, once fired at Florida. Mike Leach has entered the SEC at Mississippi State, and Lane Kiffin makes his SEC return at Zach's Ole Miss Rebel football squad. So we run down the line. We will start first, Zach, with Mark Stoops at Kentucky. Who do you take? Jeremy Pruitt versus Mark Stoops at Kentucky.
Mark Stoops, what he's done, obviously, it's always overshadowed by the basketball team, right? I mean, anything the basketball team, nobody gives a rip about Mark Stoops. Now, they put a little bit more money into the university and the football program, but Mark Stoops is tough because I do think he's taken a program that was not worth a damn and made them at least worth a damn. Now, they're not great. They're not vying for – they had opportunity this year if they would have beaten what I think it was LSU or late in the season. They had to beat somebody to get them into the race. I can't remember the exact game, but it was later in the year and they lost. Maybe it was Florida. No, Florida was early in the season.
It was Georgia. So
that's what it was.
And it wasn't very close.
It wasn't. And Georgia really cemented that they were a much better team and program than Kentucky. When your backs are against the wall and Kentucky had an opportunity to take that next step and they didn't, it kind of tells you Kentucky's still Kentucky. I like what Mark Stoops has done, and how he's done it is he's taken the players within his state, kind of a Butch Jones concept, but he's done a lot better job of developing those players. He's also gone into Ohio and taken the players that don't go to Ohio State and some of the other schools in the Midwest, and he's brought them down to Kentucky. It's a great, great philosophy. He needs a good, solid quarterback that can kind of push his program for a couple of years.
And he hasn't had it.
Right, and that's what he's missing. I think Kentucky could vie for an SEC East title, kind of like we talk about Tennessee possibly in the future, if they find that quarterback. Yeah, so I struggle with this. I kind of have them on the same level.
I really like Mark Stoops. At first I was like, this guy's not very good, but Kentucky, to Kentucky's credit, stuck with Stoops, went through the growing pains, and he has now got Kentucky regularly going to a bowl game, which is impressive at Kentucky, but now they're investing more in football. Yes, Stoops is missing the quarterback position just like Jeremy Pruitt is. Terry Wilson tore his ACL last year early, so he was out. He's back this year. But Terry Wilson, unless he's done a ton of work this offseason, and an offseason where it's hard to do a ton of work, Terry Wilson's a runner before he is a thrower. And the last time Terry Wilson was a really good quarterback for Kentucky, he had Benny Snell behind him, which makes everything easier. And by the way, Benny Snell is long gone from the Wildcats offense. So Kentucky does have a good recruiting base set. The roster is strong, but you got to look at the results. Mark Stoops has worked his tail off to build up his Kentucky program, yet Jeremy Pruitt has beat them twice. Once in Knoxville when Kentucky was a top 15 team, Jeremy Pruitt stomped them. And then last year, Lynn Bowden, who is a really special athlete at quarterback from wide receiver, gave Tennessee a scare, and that was a valiant effort. But Pruitt's 2-0 against Mark Stoops. I like Mark Stoops, but I'd take Pruitt over Stoops.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I do take Pruitt over Stoops by some of the reasons that you said that kind of tipped me over the edge. I am impressed with what Kentucky has done. I can't sit there, and I don't like Kentucky, could care less about Kentucky. But I recognize how far their football program has gone. It does make you think, is that going to be kind of the monkey on their back if they can't continuously get over Pruitt, starting 0-2 in the first 2 years? And those are kind of the years that you can take advantage of beating them, and they didn't.
Correct. Yeah, Donald says he thinks it's a push again on this one. Brent going with Pruitt says 2-0 against Stoops.
I think it's a very small margin. I'm not giving Pruitt just the nod very easily.
Yeah. Tommy says, I'd say close between tier 2 and tier 3, closer to 2, though. Talking about Pruitt, we'll get to that. We'll find out where he's at there. So Rob says, you're right. If they had a quarterback, they would make noise. And we don't really know what to expect out of Terry Wilson this year. All right,
I think the same way with Tennessee, though. That's where I struggle. If they had a quarterback, if Jared Garantano doesn't do some of his dumb plays, they're now really vying for the SEC East.
Absolutely.
That's why they're comparable.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get to the new Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp at South Carolina. For me, Will Muschamp has always been like – Tennessee has been snake bit by Will Muschamp. It took them forever until they could beat a Will Muschamp team for random reasons, whether Muschamp was at Florida or South Carolina. They've gotten over that. And Will Muschamp, I think he's had quarterback issues as well. Rob says that Will Muschamp is a thorn in Tennessee's side. But I'm taking Jeremy Pruitt. I think Jeremy Pruitt has a much higher ceiling than Will Muschamp, although Will Muschamp's still a pretty solid head coach.
Yeah. Muschamp's a solid head coach. I take Pruitt over Muschamp just because of his struggles in the past. If you can't win at Florida, that tells me something. It doesn't tell me everything, but it does tell me something, because you should be able to win at Florida, right? You've got better parts. I mean, you got better parts.
Yeah, and Will Muschamp could recruit. Will Muschamp was recruiting well at Florida. That's why Jim McElwain won the East twice.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but it's what you do with those, right? It's a two-part job. It's just like anything you do. You have to be able to do multiple things well, not just one. Because if you're a one-trick pony, that's just not going to work. You're not going to win enough games consistently at the end of the year because teams will figure you out and better teams will figure you out. And that's who you got to play towards the end of the season.
Strike was right that he could recruit defense, and they had a great defense, but could not really get anything on offense going. Okay, so let's move to the two newcomers in Tier 3. Let's start with Mike Leach at Mississippi State, where Mike Leach went back once, another coach that John Curry tried to hire at Tennessee, but couldn't get it done, then was ultimately fired the next day after his lunch meeting out in L.A. with Mike Leach. Mike Leach at Mississippi State, who do you take, Pruitt or Mike Leach?
Is Mike Leach an anomaly of like the good year he had with Texas Tech? We all remember Michael Crabtree against Texas, turning the corner, winning. That was the height of Texas Tech. He got into they call it the Apple Bowl at Washington State, but he never could win, right? Yeah. I viewed Washington State the same way, and I'm not trying to get into this topic. It's a whole different topic. But I view them the same way as I do Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is good. It's like Washington got to the college football playoff. Washington State could never do that. Oklahoma gets to the college football playoff. Oklahoma State always loses to Oklahoma at the end of the year to never get in the Big 12 championship and never do anything. They win 10 games. They win 9 games. That's all well and good. And I'm afraid that Mike Leach is going to run into a buzzsaw because you don't get the luxury of playing Oregon State every year, right? Like, you don't get that. You may play Arkansas, but Arkansas is going to be good, and they can beat teams at times. I think Mike Leach is going to struggle. I effing hate Mississippi State as the university, as the city, that cow patty trash-ass town. I don't even want to go 30 miles with close to Mississippi State. I am trying to leave my bias out. I would take Jeremy Pruitt over Mike Leach because I just think it's kind of a gag game. It's not true. It's not real.
Mike Leach works at college football outposts. Like Lubbock, Texas Tech is an outpost. Pullman, Washington, Wazoo is an outpost. Starkville is an outpost, but it's in the SEC. And you have to be able to recruit in the SEC. And Mike Leach, it's been a long time since Mike Leach was at Kentucky with Tim Couch and as a coordinator. And I honestly don't think Mike Leach was doing a bunch of recruiting during those years in the Southeast. And so I have no idea how Mike Leach is going to recruit in the Southeast with very little connections and also the type of offense that he runs without having a defense. It's going to take a big transformation for Mike Leach as a coach to be successful at Mississippi State. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of noise with how Mike Leach talks, but I absolutely think you take
Jeremy
Pruitt.
What you say about a crazy girlfriend. It was fun. It was a hell of a lot of fun, but it was not sustainable, right? Like that's what Mike Leach is. He can do the flair. He can do all that stuff, but can he win games consistently and big games at that against really good head coaches, as we've talked about? And I do want to disclose, full disclosure, I went to Ole Miss. That's why there is a bias. We'll talk about Lane Kiffin here very, very shortly. I also love Mike Leach. That's my struggle. I'm very torn.
You're very entertained by Mike Leach.
Out of all the things that I said about Mississippi State and the program he now runs, I really like Mike Leach. We've interviewed him before. He's one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done. Why? Because he was real. He was funny.
And
he was charismatic.
He was riding a bike to get groceries in Key West.
He told us stories that's why I was like, damn, I don't want him to go to the school I hate because I like him. So now it's a whole new, I do love the dynamic of the Mississippi schools, and nobody gives a rip about the Egg Bowl or Mississippi. I get it, but I do because I went there. Now more eyes are going to be on Leach and Kiffin.
Yeah, Rob says Pruitt. Brad says Pruitt over Leach. G-Man and Donald both taking Leach over Pruitt. Brent says Pruitt, Leach, too big of a risk and can't recruit. Jeff says, if Leach can get a defense at Mississippi State, yeah, but Mike Leach has never had a defense and any other stuff is gone. So why is he going to start to have one now? Ronald says, I love hearing Mike Leach talk at pressers. Dude is funny. Dom says, Leach is a little older and less open to change. If he has to, Pruitt can and will adapt to win. So there's some conversation there. This is a big one. Is Jeremy Pruitt versus Lane Kiffin. Now, Tennessee fans have an interesting relationship with Lane Kiffin. Some, I think, miss Lane Kiffin. Some absolutely hate his guts for how he left the program. So Jeremy Pruitt versus Lane Kiffin, Zach. He is now your head coach at Ole Miss. This one's tough.
Yeah, it's really tough because for years, and you've been on this show with me, I've never believed in Lane Kiffin as a head coach. I never have. The whole college football, that's why I'm so up in the air going into this college football season, is because the Leach thing that I just talked about and my hatred towards Lane Kiffin as a head coach. I thought he was a sleazeball. I thought he was scum. Like, the guy screw you over at any drop of the hat. I think his history showed that, right? And then he'd get to a head coaching job and he wouldn't do very good. He wouldn't. Now, you could do pretty good down in Boca Raton playing against a bunch of slappies. Yeah, you can do that. But can you play with the big boys and manage how you can manage? Look, we own this company. There's a big difference in owning a company and working for somebody, right? The responsibility, the work you can put in, the out to say, look, I can always go somewhere else and find another job. He's putting his reputation, his name, just like we put every single day. A to Z stands for Austin and Zach. If that brand fails, that is on me. That is on you, Austin. So I don't believe that Lane Kiffin, because his history tells me he can't. I think he's learned a lot, right? I think the older you get, the more mature. That's where I don't know where this is going to go. Yeah. And then I've got the whole Ole Miss tie. I'm screwed.
Alex says Lane is a Tuma, and I say he's not Tuma. He's not Tuma. Rob says I think he's grown up a lot, and that's the thing is, how much has Lane Kiffin grown as a head coach since being fired on the tarmac at USC? And another comment that I wanted to get to, Donald says, he says Lane was absolutely terrible at USC. Like, was he that terrible at USC? Because people forget that was Lane Kiffin had to clean up Pete Carroll's mess. That was when USC had I think 15 scholarships reduced over 3 years. They had a bunch of recruiting restrictions as well.
He took the job.
Well, of course he took the job. Like, that's
no, but that's the whole point of this whole conversation. Austin, you of anybody should know that. Yeah, he could have stayed at Tennessee, a very prestigious program, but he decided to go to another prestigious program and work under those constraints.
He had a winning record at USC, and it was his dream job. When you're offered your dream job, you take it. And Zach Reagan just commented on Periscope, said Kiffin said he didn't know the mess USC was going to be in. And I don't remember.
But a winning record is not good enough.
I know that. But a winning record with all of the probation and the scholarship restrictions and reductions, I thought he was done dirty by being fired the way he was fired. Did he deserve to be fired? Maybe. But Lane Kiffin, how much has he grown up since that moment? Because he's was hiding in Boca Raton. Nobody's paying attention to FAU football, but he won some conference titles. He won a lot of games. Now, what can he do at Ole Miss? Like I have
my answer.
I've always liked Lane Kiffin as a head coach. I think he's going to be a good head coach. What's your answer?
I hope to God you're right, Austin. I'm praying for that because I want to win. I want to go back and get drunk in the box at the Superdome watching the Sugar Bowl. I want to get back there. But I do think that he'll always have Joey Freshwater in him. And that being said, of being at Ole Miss, there's opportunity for scandal. There's also opportunity to just leave and go somewhere else because he does take Ole Miss to a better place. I take Pruitt because and I hate to say this, but I take Pruitt because I think Pruitt is there at Tennessee for the long haul. I can't say that about Lane Kiffin. So that scares the hell out of me.
So Charlie says this one's a tie, master of offense versus master of defense. So I think football-wise, I think they're both pretty equal, as Charlie's kind of talking about there. But there's one word that comes into play here with Lane Kiffin. It's trust. Can you trust Lane Kiffin? Can you trust him off the field? Can you trust him in recruiting? Because look, I was at Tennessee during Lane Kiffin's 1 year. They were on the fast track to winning some football games, but they were also on the fast track to having some NCAA violations and recruiting violations as well. So he likes to push the envelope. I don't necessarily trust Lane Kiffin as much as I would trust Jeremy Pruitt on my program. So trust is the reason why I take Jeremy Pruitt.
It's like a drug addict, okay? A drug addict can get clean, right? He has the ability to get clean and never do drugs again for the rest of his life. But there's also that one thing, that cloud over the drug addict's head for the rest of his life. Maybe he slips up one night and takes a sip of beer. Maybe he finds and smokes a little pot. And that opens the gate for a disaster. And that's just what Lane Kiffin is, as the analogy goes, is I don't trust the guy because at any point he could fall back into his bad ways, and his bad ways were really bad. And so I'm not saying I hold grudges, but I sit there and I say, look, you're going to have to prove it to me, pal. Words, I don't give a damn about words. All I care about are actions. And I've always been that way. So I pick Pruitt because I have to stick to my guns. I'm not a flip-flopper. I got to stick to my morals.
All right, so I took Jeremy Pruitt over everybody in Tier 3. I also took Jeremy Pruitt over Gus Malzahn for the future. So I think, which tier does Jeremy Pruitt belong in? Does he belong in Tier 2, or does he just belong at the very top of Tier 3? Because that's what we've been working through. Right?
Yeah, I think he belongs at the top of Tier 3. I think because him and Mark Stoops, and if we hadn't have both agreed on how close that was and how Kentucky's missing a quarterback and Tennessee's missing a quarterback, he's right there at the top of Tier 3.
So here's how I would rank Tier 3, which now has 5 coaches in it. I would rank Tier 3, 1 Pruitt, 2 Stoops, 3 Kiffin, 4 Muschamp, and 5 Mike Leach. I would have Mike Leach at the bottom of Tier 3.
Yes. I can't disagree with that. But Pruitt's not in Tier 2.
Agree. Now, maybe
even you said he was better than Gus Malzahn, but he's not better. He's not.
I like the future of Pruitt better than the future of Gus Malzahn. But I also do admit that the resumes don't equal. So because of that, Gus Malzahn deserves to be in that second tier because of what he's built and what he's done over the long haul. So that's where Pruitt deserves to be, is the top of Tier 3. Now, what can he do, as Chase brings up on Periscope, the end of this season? I bet Pruitt's a solid Tier 2. He isn't there yet. What can he accomplish to get to that second tier? We'll hang on to these tiers, and we'll go over that and have that as another conversation down the road. Yeah,
well, and that's a really good – and maybe we could have it now or we can have it later. Which of these overall coaches are going to move tiers, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to go up or who's going to go down, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I've got some opinions on that.
So we need to do that in the future. We'll have a future SEC show. Hell, it's only June 17th.
Yeah, we've got some time. All right, A to Z Sports. Let's talk one SEC topic before we get to throwing shade. And my throwing shade involves sandwiches. First, Zach, before we get to the dark horse, Trail of Tears. That's very funny, G-Man. Who is your SEC dark horse team this fall? But first, Zach, tell people about CalvinandSuttle.com.
Yeah, Calvin and Subtle, they'll save you money on new hardwood floors. If you were trying to rip up your carpet, you got carpet in your house, look, call Calvin and Subtle at 615-448-6414. That's 615-448-6414. They will help you out. And you call them, they come into your house, they'll take the CDC precautions to make sure you're safe. You can go into their showroom and pick out your perfect hardwood floor. They can come with samples. You pick it out, and within 1 to 2 weeks, material is ordered and installed. That's how quick it is, and they're very cost effective. They're reliable. They've got good warranties, good guarantee on those hardwood floors. You've probably been scuffing them up over the last couple of weeks. CalvinandSuttle.com, 615-448-6414.
A to Z Sports, shop.A2ZSportsNashville.com, AZ30 for 30% off all your orders. We had somebody get themselves a black polo. It's a Nike golf polo. They're pretty sweet. 30% off of that. Pullovers, long sleeve, short sleeve, and hats. Shop.A2ZSportsNashville.com is where to go. AZ30 for 30% off there. So the question is right now, who is your dark horse SEC team to make some noise? And because I think favorites, like everybody knows that Alabama and LSU might be favorites in the West, and Georgia and Florida are favorites in the East. But what about dark horse to do more than what they're expected? Because Tom asked, what is dark horse? He says, I'm willing to bet A&M wins 10 regular season games this year. 10 regular season games for Texas A&M. That I think does count, Tom, as dark horse.
Hell yeah, that does. Hell yeah. If they win 10 regular season games, yes. And you know what? It's funny he said that. Now, I've loved Texas A&M. That was my team last year, right? I like them this year because they don't have the same schedule. I agree. That is also my dark horse because they replaced Clemson and put in Colorado.
Oh, huge.
Thank you very, very much. Look, out of the East, they sit there, and you know who they play? They play South Carolina, and then they play Vanderbilt. So I love that pick. Texas A&M is my pick, so we are aligned here. Here is the hard part.
Yeah.
You know who the last two games are?
Alabama and LSU. So, and that's what Tom's talking about. Tom says he thinks A&M is going to win 10 regular season games.
They may lose the last two.
That means he thinks they're 10-0 in the heart of the college football playoff conversation when they go to Alabama November 21st, right before Thanksgiving.
It's like they've gotten screwed the last 2 years. Last year, their whole entire schedule was tough. And then this year, I guess you'd rather do that. At least give me an easy schedule and then put the last two at the end so I can ride it out for the first, several weeks of the season.
I don't disagree with Tom because they're going to beat Abilene Christian in North Texas and Colorado. That's 3-0. They're going to beat Arkansas. They're going to beat Mississippi State. They're going to beat Fresno State. So, boom, there you are, 6-0 right there. Then it's at Auburn, at South Carolina. That at Auburn game, I think, could be interesting. Then, obviously, Ole Miss, Vandy. Tom, I think Texas A&M fans will probably say they expect 10-2 for this season. And if they can win one of those last two games, I think they would be very, very excited.
So that kind of a cop-out, but I think that one of the Mississippi schools will be better, right? 6-7 and 4-8 last year. Mississippi State, 6-win team. Ole Miss, a 4-win team. One of those two teams are going to win like 7, maybe 8 games.
Yeah, and with Ole Miss, it's John Rice Plumlee, and what can Lane Kiffin do very quickly with that guy? If he
can learn how to throw the damn ball, maybe Ole Miss can do it. That guy can run like the wind. You talk about a horse, that guy can gallop, but he can't throw the ball. He can't hit the broadside of a barn at times. I watched every single one of that man's throws, that boy's throws, because he's a freshman.
I think Mississippi State probably has the best chance to win 7 games this year than Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin it'll take him a year to kind of figure things out, especially with, I don't know, because Mike Leach is a drastic difference of an offense going from what they were doing beforehand.
Yeah. And that always takes time, right? It was like Chad Morris talking about, well, it's going to take some time because Brett Bielema, he didn't run the same style. And boom, you're gone. Can't be waiting on your kid to play quarterback. And Brett Bielema did the same thing. He was like, well, we're just not the same style. We hog mollies, and they didn't give him enough time. So how much time will he get to change? He'll at least get 2 to 3 years.
Sure. D Mills brings up Kentucky in the East with TD Terry Wilson and a great O-line coming back.
Not a bad bet.
I agree with the offensive line that Kentucky has. I am not a believer in TD Terry Wilson. So Kentucky has Florida early on in week 2. Their crossover in the West is Auburn and Mississippi State. So Auburn, it's at Auburn, which will be a tough, and that's week 5, fairly early in the year for Kentucky to go to Auburn to kind of prove itself a little bit. I don't like Terry Wilson, so it's hard to do that. I was thinking about Auburn being a solid dark horse option because Bo Nix is in year 2, but they just lost way too many studs on defense and on the offensive line. So I'm not going to go with Auburn. I think my dark horse team in the SEC, it's hard to get Texas A&M. South Carolina with Ryan Helinski coming back, they were awful. They were 4-8 last year, and one of those wins was an upset over Georgia. I think South Carolina will be closer to 7 or 8 wins this upcoming year. So I'm going to say South Carolina will be a very, very tough out. That's my dark horse.
All right, there you go. That's a surprise. I did not think you were going to say South Carolina.
Well, I mean, Texas A&M is a great pick, right? I'm not gonna pick Texas A&M because you did. LSU and Alabama can't be dark horses. Florida and Georgia can't be dark horses. We've already talked for 50 minutes about Tennessee. So I'm going to go with South Carolina to surprise some people later this year.
It's fair.
All right. We got our end of show topic. And on Wednesdays, that is throw-in shade. My shade has to do with sandwiches today. So I'm looking forward to the shade. But first, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse and how they can help you. RentersWarehouse.com, the professional landlord in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for, because there's so many ways you can use Renters Warehouse. When you're moving, you don't have to sell your home. You can, but you could rent it out to other people and keep building equity, have them pay your mortgage and then some, get some of that mailbox money. Or if you own Airbnbs and you're not getting any business and weekend travelers, renterswarehouse.com can temporarily rent out your property. Renterswarehouse.com is where to go.
Don't forget, 1 o'clock today, AFC Championship game, Titans, Broncos, snow flurries starting to come in Denver early this morning. You never know. Hey, this is a chance to play for the Super Bowl. Here's your playoff picture, 1 o'clock. Titans advanced yesterday, big win over the Jets. Absolutely crashed that plane. And then you've got the Broncos, the best team in the NFL. On the other side, Vikings versus San Francisco. I hope you've enjoyed watching this blitz excursion as much as I've had fun playing it all season long, trying to make it to the big Super Bowl. And we'll find out at 1 o'clock. Plus, you'll find out who is going to be quarterbacking the Broncos, which I think will surprise a lot of people.
I think I know the answer because I cheated and looked at the depth chart.
Don't say anything. Don't ruin it. And that was
I'm not going to ruin it.
Well, you ruined it for yourself.
I didn't know there was going to be anything to ruin. I was interested in who the Broncos quarterback was going to be, so I looked it up.
I told you I was going to tell you at 1 o'clock.
I did that yesterday. Yesterday, I looked up the roster. Yesterday, I looked up the Broncos. After I knew you were playing the Broncos.
You didn't know who the quarterback was.
I knew it wasn't John Elway, and so I went to go look up who the 1999 Broncos quarterback was. And I
just looked it up like 2 seconds ago?
No, yesterday, damn it. I said yesterday.
But earlier in the show, you didn't know who the quarterback was.
I said Brian Greasy, and you said no. And
that's wrong.
I know. So I know the depth chart, which says all the quarterbacks on the roster. So now that you told me that it's not Brian Greasy, I know who it is. Does that make sense? Okay. So throw in shade now that we got that handled. What's your shade today? My shade has to do with a sandwich. Do you want to go first, Zach?
I'll go first because we'll end on a good note on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, so we'll end on a good note. My shade is quick and easy, but it hurts the pocketbook. Okay, it hurts the pocketbook bad. It's to the city of Nashville. What the hell are you doing? A 34% tax raise on property tax? What are you trying to do? You're trying to kill us? You're trying to destroy us? I think that's what the concept is. Tax the pedal taverns. Tax the tourists that come into this city and drink all of our beer and have all of our fun. That was a bad law that was passed. Bye IG. A bad law that was passed. 34%. That's up 2% than what was projected from the mayor. This mayor, look, I'm not trying to get into politics, but this mayor should take a ride out of town. He's been driving me nuts with this tax increase BS. And look, it got passed. I know it's not all him. It is a group. That's the democracy of what we live in the state-run legislature. But 34%. And they're doing this. I know why they're doing this. They're doing this because everybody's coming in and making a ton of money on property in Nashville. I get it. I'm one of those. I am a homeowner. Was wanting to be another homeowner. But now I may put my money in other places because this city has completely screwed me and all of my Nashvillian folks that have been living here for the last several years, hiking our tax up to 34%. Your ass must be crazy. That's my shade.
Very fair. Very fair. My shade has to do with sandwiches. So this will be a lot lighter than what Zach just talked about. And I don't think anybody's arguing that. But I found this interesting from our own Preds writer, Alex Doherty, yesterday. Alex put out a poll on Twitter, and he asked, when making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which side do you make first? The peanut butter side or the jelly side? And 88% of people voted the peanut butter side. What I didn't understand is that people make their peanut butter, and some people, I don't know. In my mind, there's only one correct way to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And it's not by having two pieces of bread and putting peanut butter on one side and gel on the other, because then you're going to make a mess trying to do that. It's you have one side. You put the peanut butter on first and you spread that out. Then you put the jelly on top of the peanut butter and you spread that out, and you take your knife and you clean your knife on the opposite slice of bread. And then you take the bread that has nothing on it except for excess peanut butter and jelly, and you put it on top. That
Not
is
enough peanut butter.
What do you mean not enough peanut butter? How is
Not
that?
enough peanut butter.
You can control how much peanut butter you want on it.
No, yeah, you don't want that's the best part about having peanut butter on both sides. Look, I'll be honest, and I have to be honest. I don't make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I'm a psychopath, and I've said this on radio before. I make peanut butter, honey, and Cool Ranch Dorito
I do
sandwich.
peanut butter and honey, for the record, yes.
Peanut butter, honey, Cool Ranch Doritos. You put that on Hawaiian sliced bread, and you will have a delicious treat. But for this topic, you want peanut butter on both sides of the bread because, look, everybody is pro peanut butter first. You want more peanut butter than you want jelly. You don't eat jelly sandwiches, do you?
No, I don't eat jelly.
So you want the ratio has messed up if you do your concept. That's why it's incorrect.
The ratio.
You need more peanut butter to jelly ratio.
Yes, and I can still do that by putting the peanut butter on first.
No, you put the peanut butter on both sides and then you put it together.
I mean, you still have peanut butter on the opposite side because you take your knife, you spread the peanut butter where
There's not enough peanut butter. That's
what
excess.
are you talking about? There's not enough peanut butter. Like, there's plenty of peanut butter.
You scoop scoops and with your knife, and you slather on one side of the bread, and then you go back into the peanut butter jar and you slap it on the other side. That's the right amount of peanut butter.
No.
You're lacking on peanut butter.
No, I'm not. I swear to God, Zach, I am not lacking on freaking peanut butter. I use more peanut butter. I don't even do jelly. I do peanut butter and honey like you're talking about, and I lather that thing up with peanut butter. But peanut butter, like, why would you make the sandwich, build the sandwich on both sides of bread? That's what I don't understand.
Why wouldn't you?
Because when you're folding in, like the jelly is going to slide. That I'm not talking about your way, because you're not. Zach, stop making that face. Because your way is peanut butter's on both sides, and you put jelly on top of peanut butter, correct? So you're kind of more in line with me. I don't understand people who put jelly on one side and peanut butter on one side, and then they fold that together because jelly can be runny. Why would you do that? Put the jelly on top of the peanut butter so you can spread the jelly all over the peanut butter properly.
Yeah,
That's what I don't understand.
I love jelly on breakfast sandwiches, like breakfast, toast, biscuits. I love jelly there. I like blackberry jam. I like grape jelly. I like it all. But when it comes to peanut butter sandwiches, I go peanut butter, honey, Cool Ranch Doritos in the sandwich with that crunch, and you slime it together. Now that is legit.
Okay, 12-year-old Zach. 12-year-old Zach with his Doritos on there.
12-year-old Zach is what, and we should live. We should live out our childhood. I'm playing video games online. I feel fantastic, right? I'm getting some joy out of things. Dorito sandwiches. I may have one. I'm going to the beach here pretty soon. That's a great midday beach sandwich.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, not Doritos. I don't eat really chips anymore. But yeah, peanut butter banana as
you don't. I'm pro peanut butter banana.
Peanut butter banana and honey. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, peanut butter banana and honey. That jam I can get on board with. That's the best sandwich. I would have that sandwich over all the sandwiches, even the Dorito sandwiches. But it does have that salty tang. The banana brings out that sweetness and fruit, right. And you feel like it's good for you.
Bananas are good for you.
That trumps any peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, I rarely do peanut butter and jelly. I do peanut butter, and I've got that high-end honey, not that squirt honey. I've got that, local honey that comes in a glass jar that's been aged in a whiskey barrel. That's the honey I'm talking about.
So I was in, I guess it was Memphis-esque near Oxford a couple of weeks ago. And one of my buddies from college is a beekeeper. No, he's not like a beekeeper. He figured out how to get a queen bee inside of a tree, and now he makes his own honey.
So he's like an unofficial beekeeper?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And you put a box right next to the honey hole, which all the bees are in. There's like 3,000 to 4,000 bees. And the bees come out of the honey hole. He puts them in the box, makes honeycomb, makes honey, and the process repeats itself. I learned a lot about that. I was fascinated.
Vandy Man says, "Oh, Zach went to college. Who knew?" I'm curious. What's the percentage chance that Vandy Man went to Vandy?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. What is the percentage that Vandy Man won actually went to Vanderbilt?
Vandy Man won. Well, we can find out. Great. It's public forum. This is great. Larry, we won't name his last name. We'll respect that. Physician. Probably went to Vandy.
Okay, he went to Vandy.
A sports junkie, book and wine collector, Civil War historian, and diehard Vanderbilt and Cubs fan, devoted father, grandfather, and godfather.
All right, I'll give it. Vandy Man went to college.
Larry, that's the great part about and yes, Vandy Man, I did go to college.
There you go.
That's hilarious. The fact that you would think that I didn't go to college is funny. It's literally funny to me.
Well, that's Vandy for you. That's a guy, Vandy. All right, hey guys,
we're messing with you, Vandy Man. Look,
well, he just said, "Hey guys, love you." I mean, so look, love all around, love all.
Well,
around.
Yeah, but that's what happens when anybody talks crap to me, right? it happens every damn time, and I know it. You know it. You sit here. If it's Dean or Ermel or any. Once they start chomping on the chat and they think they're creative, and I'm not talking about you, Vandy Man, but once they start, like Ezekiel's giving me trash yesterday during my Blitz game. I shut that guy up real quick. It's funny, but because they don't realize they're watching us on their phone or desktop or whatever, and then they're like, "Oh God, he just said my name. He just called me out." And then it comes back to the real life, and it's like, "Oh man, I didn't mean it. I'm cool. We're cool. No. You said what you said. You stand up for it. I did go to college. I have no problem with you, Vandy Man. Or Larry. We're on better terms now.
Yes. All right. So, Zach, you play the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship game at 1:00 today. That's correct?
Yes. AFC Championship game, 1 p.m. Eastern time. We're trying to get that Super Bowl, that Blitz 2000 Super Bowl. The Broncos, they got Terrell Davis. This is going to be a tough
Terrell
game.
Davis actually wasn't on that team in 1999.
He's on the roster.
He's on the blitz. He's on blitz, but he actually was in real life. Terrell Davis was not on the 1999 Denver Broncos.
Did he retire?
Yes, he and John Elway both did.
At that same year?
Yeah, I looked at the roster yesterday.
Do you know that that's a fact?
I don't know. I know John Elway retired.
Well, you can't be saying things if you don't know it's a fact. It's like that 13-3 record. Right? So you got to check and make sure that you're factual because he didn't that's wrong. He retired in 2001.
He did not play. He
retired in 2001.
He was not on that roster that I looked up yesterday.
Well, you looked up the wrong roster. This is the second day in a row. You don't know your history. Look, how old were you in 1999?
What do you mean second day in a row? What do you mean second day in a row?
You questioned it was 13-3. They were 13-3. You thought that they were 12-4. That
was on Monday, so that wasn't the second day in a row. So you were wrong there. So look, and I was asking. I wasn't like, it was like, were they 13-3 or were they 12-4?
Questioning.
Yeah, I was asking a question because I was trying to make sure of my own thought.
Questioning is different than asking a question.
Oh my God.
Correct? Asking a question is, will you go outside and paint the house for me?
No, I was saying,
questioning is, you're going outside and painted the house yet?
No, you were taking it that way.
But there's a difference between asking and questioning.
Maybe was Terrell Davis injured that year?
Maybe so, but he didn't retire until 2001. You said he retired in 1998.
I did not say he retired. I said I did not say
he retired. You said he retired the same time John Elway did.
No, I did not. And then I came back and I corrected myself and said, no, I don't know that for a fact, but I know John Elway retired after that season, and Terrell Davis was not on the depth chart that I looked at for 1999 Denver Broncos.
I think you just need to leave the late 90s rosters alone.
Well, when you look it up, you can only go off of what you look up, and blitz rosters are not exactly correct.
Well, no, they're just not fully complete because they don't have a 52-man roster.
Well, you know the guy Lewis on your Titans defense, number 29.
Yeah, makes big plays.
There is no person with the last name Lewis on the 1999 Titans.
Was he on the 1998 or 2000?
I don't know.
Did you check that?
No, because this is the 1999 season. So
you have to understand of how these rosters work. You don't play sports video games, or I guess like pro sports video games. There's an in-between time of roster. Do you understand that?
I understand that, yes. I'm just saying my point was blitz rosters are not exactly known for being completely accurate. That was my point.
Neither are the rosters you're looking up because Terrell Davis didn't retire.
I didn't say he retired. I did not.
At one point you did.
And then I came back and said, well, actually, I don't know that. I corrected myself.
Okay. Well,
I'm allowed to do that.
So you were incorrect at first.
Well, you asked me a question and I said yes, but then I was like, wait, no, John Elway.
Well, I know, because I had to pry it out of you to make sure that you were correct.
Whatever. All right, guys. 67 carries for Terrell Davis. 67 carries for Terrell Davis in 1999. So
he's on the roster.
I looked at a depth chart. I don't know.
Way to go, Jeff.
I don't know. Hard facts. I'm looking off of a roster. So the roster told me what it told me. So there you go. All right, we'll see you at 1 o'clock for the AFC
and G-Man bit. I do not want Austin to take a polygraph. I don't want him to question rosters or records that he does not know. If he's stating facts, I'm completely okay with that. I think that's educational. It's just in this case, some things had not been correct. And what we figured out from our man Jeff, 67 rushes for 1999 for Terrell Davis is correct. He should be on the roster. And you will see him at 1 o'clock
depth
in
chart.
the snow.
I say the depth chart that I looked at for these 6 and 10
you're just digging a hole.
No, I'm not. Never mind. Let's end this show. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We will see you guys. Zach will see you at 1 o'clock for the AFC title game. See you later.